let's kick things off with Cameron on your email. Who has the most at stake for the 2025-26 season? Should we start with you, Lucky Moore?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And I think, without being too cheesy and being too, praising of the dear leader, I think one of the great things about the Premier League is that you can ordinarily think of a reason why every team in the Premier League has a lot at stake, right? I mean, I won't bore everyone to death by going through all of them because that would also steal Jim's answer. But if you just take them, I'll just do the first few in the alphabetical order, right? Arsenal, second place for however many years. The Arteta project is coming to a pivotal point. Arsenal fans are going to start to get impatient. They've made a few new signings they needed. Can they kick on that final step? Aston Villa dropped out the Champions League. What are they going to do? How's Emery going to kick them on? There's loads for them to have a stake in. Bournemouth, what can Bournemouth do this season? Given that they are now doing a really good impression of an established Premier League club, but Iraola's been there a while now. What's he going to do to keep things fresh? How are they going to strengthen between now and the end of the season? Now the end of the transfer window. There's just loads of narrative. If I were going to give you one team, though, I'd probably say, I would probably go Manchester United, and I'll very briefly tell you why, so Jim can have his bit. Man United have been a basket case for a while. We know that. They've been a bit of a laughing stock. We've had a great time chatting about them and laughing at them and all the rest of it, including on yesterday's show, for example. But I think it's getting to a point now where it's pretty serious for them financially and for reasons of status and ability to attract players, etc., if they go far too much longer without, for example, being a Champions League club. They chucked all their eggs in that Europa League basket last season because they really had to, and they ended up losing the final to Spurs, and now they won't be playing Champions League football next year, and they won't be playing any European football next year, which for a club of that size is kind of mortally bad. It can't continue like that. So for them, I think this is a really, really key pivotal season. There's quite a lot of other reasons why you can chuck a load of other teams in the mix as well. But I'll leave it there and just say, for me, on balance, it's probably Man United.
Yeah, I would sort of... My thoughts on that are that I think they do have an advantage in not having European football, if you want to look at it that way. Ruben Amorim has talked about wanting a smaller squad so that they can just really sort of attack the games that they do have. I think there's a sense they need to get kind of at least the Europa League. I think even the Conference League would be frustrating and considered to have fallen short. But there's a lot to aim at within that, So I think actually if they fall short of that, then that's disastrous. And I think that would possibly put pressure under Amorim. There is a massive, massive kind of caveat about this conversation, I think, as well, which is obviously Man City's charges. So if the
lot of investment funds are very in a terribly worrying state with Newcastle United. That doesn't seem to be going in the way that they wanted it to be because of the amount of money they're not allowed to spend, and also Man City. There's just a lot of investment funds worrying, Jim, aren't they?
Yeah, I think broadly speaking they'll probably be okay in the long run. But the Independent have reported that those within the club at City think the case could go on until at least October before there's an outcome. So it's very, very possible.
That, wild.
Yeah, it is mad that it's taken this long, but it sounds like there is a possibility that we will get some sort of result on that this season. So if that goes badly for Man City, then, I mean, it's hard to say exactly how severe these punishments will be, what they will mean, if they'll be meaningful at all, if they'll happen at all. We really don't know. So I think that just has to be taken into account. I do think at the same time, though, if Man City don't really challenge this season, it's the end of an era, clearly. I think we're all looking at Pep Guardiola. He's got 2 years left on his contract. He's saying he'll leave at the end of it, as he has many times, but it does feel like it's actually winding down now. They have to plan for a new era without it. I think if the charges don't stick, is there that much at stake? Probably very, very short term. Other than that, maybe it's okay. I think it probably is Man United. Now, I mean, I think it's easy to look at Arsenal and Arteta in particular and think if they don't win anything this season, then you probably think already that the era under Arteta is defined really by falling short. But they're in rude health. There's a good squad with a good age profile where a lot of those players are tied to good contracts. So, I mean, it's, as disasters go, they've had worse recently. So I think it probably still is Man United. And I think that is just, unfortunately for them, the burden of the status they have is just massive, isn't it?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think so. And I think Man United just sucks so much of the gravity in. They're the Jupiter of the Premier League for that in that kind of area, really. A couple more in the mix-up, though, because otherwise we just talk about Man United all the time. Obviously, the promoted sides can't speak for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, Spurs under Thomas Frank. Spurs in that endless kind of 18-month managerial cycle. Is Thomas Frank going to be different? Thomas Frank's reputation rests on him being at a club for quite a long time and delivering success by their own standard. Essentially making Brentford a top-flight club established when they have really no history of being so. So if he can do bits and pieces for Spurs, it's massive for them. Obviously, they go into the Champions League again as well for the first time in a wee while. Chelsea project remains interesting, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I would say that Maresca's outperformed expectation last season, but they've got the spectre of financial issues probably hanging over them as well. I mean, Pete, your very own Newcastle United, going into the Champions League again, struggling to strengthen their squad, absolutely pivotal month for them. And there's just always so many narratives at play in a Premier League season. Crystal Palace going into European football for the first time ever. There's so much going on that it's pretty interesting. Fulham, properly rolling out the Riverside stand. That's a huge talking point for us, and will be when Marcus comes back on Friday. So, there's loads to get stuck into, guys. And if you're new to the Ramble, and this is the very first episode you've ever listened to, this mailbag episode, stick around because we will deliver quite ill-informed, regularly unfunny takes about all these different stories.
Very emotional takes as well.
Yeah.
Worth noting, if you are a supporter of one of the 3 promoted clubs, we will just lump you all together. So you will get a mention,
but you've already got yourselves to blame
blob.
there because the league will lump you all together because that's how it's been.
That's another point, though, isn't it, Luke? You touched on it, but genuinely, sort of bigger picture, if it looks like the 3 promoted clubs are essentially going to be kind of whipping boys again, that becomes an undeniable trend at this point, doesn't it? And that becomes kind of seriously worrying. Yeah,
there was a really interesting debate on our Discord, which is available for our Patreon members, about the promoted clubs thing, because we've talked about it quite a lot over the last season or so, and there's a couple of members on there who were saying, look, do you know what, I don't actually think it is like that. I think it's just we've had a really tough couple of years. It's been a bit coincidental because of various reasons. Worth going and checking it out. If you're not a Patreon subscriber, sign up and go and have a look, because that was a really interesting discussion which taught me a lot. But I think really, if it happens again this season, you have to start asking serious questions. I've argued that we're at the start of a trend. Could be wrong, been wrong before. But what's also super interesting about that is that if Leeds, Burnley or Sunderland manage to stay up, and our colleague David Cartledge thinks Sunderland will stay up, and they've of course made some quite impressive signings,
spent a lot of money,
brings into the mix who's going to go down. And so that then automatically inserts a really important narrative for whichever team gets kind of drawn into it. So it's hard to say at this this point of the summer what's going to happen, of course. But there's loads of reasons why loads of clubs have a lot at stake this season, and I'm excited for it.
And also, you sort of think that where is the spectre of relegation for a lot of these sides like West Ham, like Spurs, like Man United last season? How do you sort of measure Graham Potter's efficiency, who's going to have a massive season this season? Because I think we've said on the show before, this is the season where we figure out whether he's actually a football manager in the Premier League, at Premier League level or not. Where's the peril there if there are no football teams going down and it's just the same old faces kind of coming up and going down, and going down?
On that Potter thing, yeah, that's a fair point. That's a harsh assessment, though, Pete, because obviously he did do a really good job at Brighton, was tempted by the Chelsea coin, and it didn't work out for whatever reason, and now he's trying to rebuild, right? I don't think
was the luster starting to go a little bit?
Yeah, I think it was, but I think it kind of almost goes back to that thing that comes up every so often, and most recently came out with Aaron Ramsdale as a player. One of the most underrated skills you need as a manager and as a player, but particularly as a manager, is you have to make good decisions about the jobs you take. And if Potter had to go overseas to build his reputation, to develop himself as a coach, he basically caught notice of people in this country from what he was doing up in Scandinavia. Then he builds his career slowly, does an amazing job at Brighton. Obviously not jumping ahead and missing out Swansea entirely, but you understand the point I mean. His reputation became a national reputation because of what he did at Brighton. If you then follow that up with two just terrible decisions in retrospect of going to Chelsea when it's been a shit show and not been able to handle it for whatever reason, and then going to West Ham, who've been a basket case for a while and not been able to swim rather than sink there either, then absolutely the luster's disappearing off him. But I don't think you could. I still think it's a harsh framing to say we don't know if he's a Premier League manager or not. I think he is. I just think he might have made some quite boneheaded decisions in his employment opportunities.
It's hard to kind of assess what his kind of average finishing position should be, if that makes sense. I think there's no doubt he's a Premier League manager, but it's just at what area of that table are we talking?
Well, it also might be actually, to look at it a slightly different way. He's a guy who does projects, right? He's a guy that kind of get in and does things his own way. And if you're someone who goes into Brighton and gets the time and the space with a very understanding and well-respected owner in Tony Bloom, and get the room across a number of seasons to do your thing, because of course Brighton were in the Premier League when he took over, but they were, their expectations were slightly different. And then he had the COVID season, I think, pretty soon after, right, where you can kind of basically, I mean, for a manager like Potter, that's probably ideal because you're just left alone to do your thing, right?
Yeah.
But then you go into jobs where the pressure's instant, the fans are really demanding, the ownership isn't very coherent, and you're someone who's a thoughtful guy who needs room to do your work and not just a kind of let's get up at atom type of guy, then it's going to be really hard. So I'm confused at this point as to why he doesn't take decisions around his employment with that in mind. But for all the reasons we just talked about, that goes back to Cameron's question. Then West Ham have got loads at stake this season because if they don't improve massively, they're going to be in danger.
Coming up after this, statue chat, and we plan Tommy Tuchel's 2026 parade. John Bells on X asked, if they were building just one statue, would Spurs build the statue of Heung-min Son or Harry Kane? Ignoring the fact, of course, that there are no statues of Billy Nicholson, Keith Birkinshaw or Ange Postecoglou for the purposes of the question. Heung-min Son or Harry Kane? Lukey, what are you pouring your big old barrel of bronze into?
Yeah. Oh, I wish I did have a big old barrel of bronze just knocking about the house.
Bronze.
Oh, I've kicked it over again. That's the floor, Ruin.
No, I've got bronze the kitchen.
Don't let it dry. Don't let it cool down.
Stop picking up your hands. It's hot.
This is a really, really good question, a really tough question, because I think if we were in a situation where Spurs didn't win the Europa League with Son as captain a couple of months ago, it would be an open and shut Harry Kane, right? Because top scorer, pivotal, but England captain for so long while he was at Spurs. And all the rest of it. And I guess you could probably throw into the mix that what also throws it into a bit more of a question of doubt is that Kane has left, right? Yeah. A lot of the time, it's not just that players make a big contribution at a club and get a statue. They are one club men, for example. I'm not saying that's always the case, but it can be. Bill Nicholson and Keith Birkinshaw have obviously done amazing things. So Nicholson, everyone knows, double winners for Spurs, and Birkinshaw, for those who don't know, delivered back-to-back FA Cups for Spurs and helped them, or was the manager when they lifted the UEFA Cup in 1984. So that's what he's done. But put that to one side. Postecoglou lifting the Europa League, put that to one side. The question is about Heung-min Son and Harry Kane. I think I would probably still say Harry Kane. I think when we talked about Son yesterday on the show, we talked about how Son would have got even more plaudits as a Spurs player had Harry Kane not been around at the same time. And I think that implies that Kane is a bigger figure at Spurs, despite Son lifting the Europa League for Spurs. So I think I would just about go Harry Kane. I'm really interested to hear from Spurs fans about this. Maybe just follow up with a few comments and let us know what you think. But for me, Jim, it's probably just about Harry Kane still.
I would agree with Kane, and that is for the reasons that he obviously came through their academy, which is a massive thing, and it's a thing to be proud of.
Should have said that myself.
It's a thing to celebrate as well. And not only has he come through their academy, he's gone on to be England's all-time top scorer, an absolute icon in the game. Like, those are massive, massive things that any club should be proud of if they produce a player who actually has a legacy outside of the club while playing for them. So I think Son would be really nice, wouldn't it? And it'd be lovely for him to be commemorated in that way. But I think it might raise a few eyebrows if it were to happen. If Kane were given a statue, I think most people would go, yeah, fair enough. That makes sense. And obviously we know there is a Harry Kane statue knocking about somewhere. Maybe they could just use that one, the one that went missing in East London for a bit.
When he inevitably retires from England duty, to give it to Spurs. I think, Pete, you also hit on something yesterday when you dished out, I can't exactly remember what they were, but you dished out a stat or two about Kane and Son's ability to play together and how kind of symbiotic they were. So maybe there's something in that as well. Maybe you've got the fact that Son lifted the Europa League, Kane's had all those achievements and come through the academy. Maybe it's a double-edged statue.
We don't have enough bronze. We don't have enough bronze. We can do chest upwards. That's all the bronze we've got, all right?
Do it in wood.
Do it in wood.
Give it a good lacquer every 6 months.
For crying out loud. It's interesting because I guess like Harry Kane left at the height of his powers to go to another club for a lot of money. And Son chose a club, stuck with a club and played until his legs were no more. So there's probably that in there as well, maybe?
I think Kane was... I know that Kane's knocked everyone over in Germany, and that's what happens when you're of that quality. But I still do think there were signs that Kane was slowing down a little bit.
Right.
I mean, I don't think I wouldn't say peak of his power. I mean, Jim, you might disagree. You might agree with Pete. Clearly, his numbers were still really good. So if you're just looking at numbers, the reality is Kane dishes out more goals, I think, in his final season at Spurs than he did the season before, right? So clearly the numbers are still good, but I just think that there was sort of a little bit of a sign that he was perhaps slowing down a little bit. Those ankle injuries were perhaps taking their toll. He's definitely had to adapt his game slightly, and then of course when you go into the Bundesliga with Bayern, you just knock everyone over, right?
To be fair to him though, is that not more informed by his performances for England when he wasn't fully fit? I'm not sure that is necessarily how it was when he was at Spurs.
We're getting away from the point though, Pete. We need your answer about the statue. Are you going Kane like us?
I think you kind of have to go. I don't know. I think Kane's got to Germany. He's not like any German. You see Son getting interviewed by German television in the Europa League, and he's speaking German. He's speaking English. He's speaking
language
Korean.
Skills that have clinched it for Son.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's sponsored by Duolingo.
Yeah.
This statue.
It's got a little button on it that says phrases.
Yeah, the Duolingo owl is on Son's statue's shoulder. Yeah, I mean...
if you unveiled the Harry Kane one, Son's dad would come along, smack it over the head with a corner flag.
Yeah, let's get a Kane one, but during the month of August, it recedes into the ground, and then it appears on the 1st of September.
I think that myth has now been fully put to bed now, Peter.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Do they even have Augusts in Germany?
Yeah,
we don't know. I don't speak German.
Nice. One further point on this. I mean, what type of statue are you having? So I'm not sure if you saw the Vinicius Junior statue that was unveiled recently, but it just looks exactly like him. It's terrifying. It's like a little bit Westworld. Like you would not be surprised if it just started walking about.
Yeah, I had that problem with the Michael Jackson one because it was in colour. It felt like it was something other.
Yes.
Yeah, not right. I mean, I guess nowadays, like you can 3D scan people, you can, 3D print statues. I mean, you can do all of this stuff to make it hyper realistic. But that's not art, is it? It's just
You've
not
done
art.
that to my head, haven't you? You've got a little 3D printed version of my head in your apology shed somewhere.
A long time ago, that. The 3D printing wasn't quite there.
I think we might need to be starting to look into doing tie-ins with Madame Tussauds about this stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, just borrow some footballers here and there.
Well, because what I've found is that, for example, there's a lot of statues of people in modern public life that have, in retrospect, been perhaps ill-advised or cancelled or had to be pulled down for whatever reason. When I was at UCL, there was a big campaign to get Gandhi's statue taken down for all sorts of reasons, which I won't go into here. If you do a Madame Tussauds waxwork...
Just melt it down.
You just slice it up, boy.
Enjoy it, yeah.
Stick it in the back of the van.
The heat of the anger to that person could melt it. Do you know what I mean? You just get people to shout at the statue, the wax statue, and the wax statue melts.
Yeah, don't worry about getting the statue pulled down. It's going to rain tomorrow.
Exactly. Would that make it? That would make it better, wouldn't
Not
it?
sure.
Cool it down.
Not sure.
No. Well, it sounds like we're very much going for Kane.
We've answered that question. Let's move on.
So well done, Harry. From Joe Harrington on Discord, Serena Wiegmann had Burner Boy. When people say Bernard Boy, you kind of have to say Bernard Boy, don't you? So who is coming out to surprise Tommy Tuchel when we win the World Cup next year? I mean, wow.
I was absolutely charmed to see how pleased Serena Wiegmann was when they announced Burner Boy was coming out, because she's quite studious. She's quite a measured character. I think she seems quite severe in the way she interviews and stuff. Very serious, and obviously her results speak for themselves. She's won 3 European Championships as a manager, right? Incredibly successful in her profession. I have never seen her happier than when it was announced Burner Boy was coming out, and then she had a little sing and dance with him. So I loved that. That was very charming.
Yeah.
The question is about Tommy Tuchel. Jim, I'll throw to you, but before I do, for me, it's got to be as many members who are still left alive of Kraftwerk with the plinths and the light display. And if you haven't got them left alive, do the robots, and a full Kraftwerk gig with no let up. So when they go to Trafalgar Square on the tour, on the open bus tour, they get to Trafalgar Square, all the lights go out, it's a laser display, it's a full 2-hour long Kraftwerk performance, and at the end, Thomas Tuchel comes out and just does the model or something, and then we all just go home.
Yeah, that'd be quite intense, wouldn't it?
Really intense.
Maybe Kraftwerk could do Winds of Change or something like that, something very, or like 99 Red Balloons, something just a sort of very, very German medley.
Nail it down,
my initial thought was it should be Oasis, it would be Robbie Williams, because he just seems to sort of get himself into these areas so easily somehow. But I do quite like the Kraftwerk idea. Maybe we get some British icons and we make them do a sort of Kraftwerk kind of tribute band with all these German songs.
Yeah, or like a pop band like Tokyo Hotel. Have you ever seen those guys? They've got an interesting, very beautiful frontman. Part of
any love
twin
for
setup.
Childish Gambino?
Well, he will never pick up the call. Like, we keep ringing him, keep on just asking him, demanding that he becomes a part of football.
Please have been so emotional for Peter.
I know.
It's just
Why won't he do
unrequited.
it? Why won't he do it?
Yeah, we'd look pretty silly if he finally did rock up.
I could imagine Tommy Tuchel being like a little bit of like a scooter, kind of like Euro dance monster, like a real,
I can see that
techno Viking kind of vibe.
I can see that. I also think this is why people who don't support England hate us, because have you seen some of the performances under Thomas Tuchel? And this is what we're talking about.
He won't be in a job by the time he gets to the
this
fucking
question
World Cup.
somehow making it through the net.
I can't. You know what? I honestly can't wait to see the depths we're going to plumb in the next international break, because we have been atrocious under Tommy Tuchel.
Get it out of the way now before Marcus gets back on Friday and shuts down any dissent.
Yeah, exactly. Completely. I think he's even got Marcus a little bit worried. All right. Randy on Instagram. Randy, would you throw some money down, gentlemen, on Ruben Amorim being sacked by Christmas? Many happy returns, Ruben.
I would suspect that, given the outlay they've spent on him and the players that he wants, and also the extremely low bar that he has to clear based on what happened last season, I'd be amazed. Yeah, indeed. I'd be that Bruno Fernandes has had to set up. I'd be astonished if they're in a position where by Christmas that it's that bad. But that said, I mean, it went so much more badly than I expected it to when Amorim came in. You kind of never know with the chaos at Man United, but I think the only reason I can look at Man United and assess them and engage with this question in a way where I think that Ruben Amorim will be under pressure come December is precisely because of the chaos that's happened before. I think if you look at it sort of dispassionately, they look like they're in much better shape already than they were towards the end of the season, certainly towards the point where Amorim came in. And I think
just won the Premier League Summer Series.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
2-2 draw against Everton.
Yeah,
how short people's memories are.
Winning trophies with draws. I mean, that is galaxy brain. That's
winning
unreal.
Tiny trophies without winning games.
Exactly.
So
tiny in the middle, wide at the top, like a ball.
Yeah, I think that I started a new Premier League betting column just off my own back for fun for this season. It's called anywinners.substack.com. So check it out if you're interested in that kind of thing. And I won't be putting up Ruben Amorim to be the first? Because it's very difficult to bet on something. To take the actual question as it's written, would you throw some money on Ruben Amorim being sacked by Christmas? Very difficult to bet on that kind of thing. But what you can do is bet on, if you're that way inclined, you can bet on the first Premier League manager to leave his job.
Right.
And that might be something we look at on any winners. But just to give you some perspective, Ruben Amorim is currently 7th favourite to be the first to leave his job, behind Daniel Farke, Keith Andrews, Scott Parker, Reggie Lebris, Nuno and Graham Potter. So the market is clearly thinking that there are loads of better candidates to lose their job before him. And if you think about it, we do tend to see one or two go, what is it normally, guys? Like around the kind of international break around November or something like that.
Yeah.
That's when it starts to kind of bite, doesn't it? With the odd exception here and there. So look, I think Jim's spot on. I think that's a great assessment. I think, we will see an improvement because we have to this year. The fact is that Jim mentioned earlier, didn't he, that the fact that, that United don't have European football, so there'll be a bit more room to breathe, a little bit more to work on the training ground. And I think that's a key point because last season, Amorim was actually saying here and there, I'm not getting any time to train with these players, right? I've not come in with the pre-season. There's so many games, we can't work on anything. Now, he's not going to have that excuse if it is an excuse this season, but if he is worth what we think he is as a coach, who's achieved great things already as a young man, then I think we will see a much improved United. But even if we don't, I still think he's probably got some gas in the tank.
Yeah, you sort of think that because of the sort of the setup with Ratcliffe, he's been so kind of vocal about his interest in keeping Amorim at the club and how much he wanted him at the club.
That's
and
right.
That kind of relationship so
Pete,
close.
Sorry to cut him, but Marcus's point, wasn't it? Marcus kept saying it. He was saying that it might be that Amorim walks away, not that he gets sacked.
Yeah.
He might be the first manager under this kind of era at United to actually quit.
And it seems like he's considered that in the past already as well.
Yeah. Well, he's sort of, he's quite unique in the Premier League in that he's a manager who is almost demanding a smaller and smaller squad. And obviously that's helped by the fact they don't have any European football to deal with. But it was a big sort of formation change for Amorim. He wants to play in a certain way. And he admitted it repeatedly throughout the season. He doesn't have time with his side. He's got the time now. He will have the time now. So I don't know. I don't know whether a smaller squad is going to help that, because at the end of the day, as you move further and further back in that side, the more and more rickety that football team seems to get, starting probably with the goalkeeper.
Yeah, although I think part of that is the sort of rigours of playing on multiple fronts, isn't it? Which they won't have so much. And I think he's spoken about wanting everybody to feel involved in training, and he says that the quality of training drops if you've got 3 or 4 players or however many who know they're not going to be involved. So there's a bit of a cloud over them, which has obviously been a massive problem, particularly at that club with the various kind of players who've ended up being kind of outcasts a little bit. But I think to kind of put a positive spin on this, if you look at the formation that Amorim's talking about, and you look at the players that he's brought in, and if you ignore the kind of like banter club narrative that is so much fun to constantly kind of use around Man United, people could do it all the time, including ourselves. Yeah. It's actually quite an exciting prospect. That formation, if he can get it working with those kind of wide, high fullbacks and those creative players in the middle, it could be really, really fun to watch. So who knows? I mean, this might seem like a silly question come then.
Oh, I found it all very fun to watch anyway, Jim, but I do take the point.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Any route back, Jim, for Garnacho, Anthony, Sancho? There seems to be, he just has a massive personality clash with those players, and he just doesn't want them anywhere near the first team training squad. Well,
he said recently, didn't he, that if they don't end up getting a move, there'll be Man United players, and they'll be treated as Man United players. So I think he's kind of laying the pathway for that, should they not be able to get moves. But I think if he, what he really wants is money rather than any of those individuals. So I think there will grudgingly they'll be reintegrated, but I don't think that's what he wants. No.
Completely agree. All right. Well, finally, for now, our final little dispatch from George Ivemi, on Instagram. Which Premier League manager would you get to cook you a 3-course meal? If you had the run of a massive kind of industrial kitchen, and you could have one Premier League manager, Luke, in there, who would you want? Unlimited funds, unlimited bits and bobs and ingredients to use. Which Premier League manager would you get to cook you a 3-course meal?
I'm catching strays again. Like yesterday, I was about to have several seats at the Oasis gig. Now I've needed an industrial kitchen to feed myself. Where's this coming from? Why can't it be a normal kitchen?
It just says nice and roomy for you. I'm not talking for Mike. We want wiped down aluminium, please.
Yeah.
Cleanliness is important.
I still resent it. My answer is no one Dutch, because as I said on the Luke and Pete show a while back, the Dutch cuisine is the worst in the world. So Arnie Slot can get out of here. No way am I getting anything Dutch. And I think it depends what kind of mood you're in, because if I wanted like a really, accurate, attention to detail, pinpoint, 3-star dinner, I'm probably going to go Pep, possibly even, Amarim. It's all about detail.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. If I wanted just a real hearty feed up, I'd probably go somewhere Italian, like Enzo Maresca maybe.
Oh, nice. Lovely.
Serve me up a big bowl of pasta, please, Enzo. That'd be lovely. I wouldn't mind just Nuno serving me up 15 pastel de nata either. So there's loads of options.
I'm a big fan of those. Any excuse. Every time we talk about anything Portuguese, it's the pastel de nata. Really.
I told you, it's when I first realised I wanted to work with Andy Brassel. Was when I heard about him. Before I'd even met him, someone said, "Oh, Brassel's this, Brassel's that," and I'd consumed his content, and I was a fan of his work. Someone told me that when he goes to Portugal for work, which he goes a lot, he always has a little pot of cinnamon in his back pocket for his pastel de nata. And I thought, that man is a serious operator.
That is
he means business. And I've been in love with him ever since. So I love a pastel de nata, and I love Andy Brassel.
I just can't ever think that someone like Arsenal's Mikel Arteta would just overcomplicate things. He'd get too bogged down in the details and forget that he's making
You overcooked your patatas bravas again, Mikel.
Exactly, yeah.
I do wonder if actually all of those kind of real obsessive kind of head managers would just be terrible cooks. I remember Jose Mourinho saying he's a disaster in the kitchen, he can't cook to save his life. And I think they're so focused on football, they'd all be rubbish. So I think you might have to go kind of a bit further down the table. I think Marco Silva looks like he'd be a very good suave chef, very comfortable in a kitchen, would knock you something up very, very, very quickly and easily, tidily. It'd be a very charming evening. I'd love to spend that long with Daniel Farker. I just think that would be an adorable evening. And, maybe he'd knock me up a currywurst. You can't go wrong with a currywurst. But I do think probably the guy is Vitor Pereira, because I think he would do a great line in post-pub food.
It'd
like
be
something
hearty.
really, really rich. You need to soak up the pints because you've soaked up the points. There's something they have in Portugal called a francesinha, which was, funnily enough, recommended to me by Andy Brassel before I went to Porto. Which is it's like a sandwich with kind of layers of meat in it, and there's a kind of spicy tomato beer sauce all over it, cheese all over it. You have it with fries. It is like it's your day's calories in a meal. It is sensational, and it is like it's not a sandwich with like fancy bread on it. It's just two slices of pretty like standard supermarket white bread, but it just creates this monster.
Yeah, Jim, did you say like a generic meat there? Because most Portuguese dishes have veal in it. It's always veal. Yeah. Always hiding some veal in there. No, I've eaten veal again.
It's very difficult to find any food in Portugal that isn't like this kind of hearty fare. I don't understand how they all look so amazing.
I know, right? It's all that legal cocaine. Ruben Amorim, I think he's the way that he sort of prowls the touchline. He's always on his knees. He looks like he could be looking into an oven 24/7. He's always keeping an eye on things. I think he'd be pretty good at keeping an eye on the fairy cakes.
Yeah,
someone's got
not going to burn anything.
Photoshop him in on his knees, looking at the oven and Bake Off. Surely.
Yeah, exactly. There's an egg
We've
under
answered
there.
that. We've answered that.
Let's get out of here.
I'm
This has been
now.
the Mailbag. Thank you very much for listening to the Football Ramble Mailbag, part of the Aircash Creator Network. We're going to be back tomorrow for more of this. Please do send us your responses, opinions, and questions for next week's Mailbag, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. We'll see you soon.